Hi, my name is Andrew. Welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to show you how I make a level inside of Unity. Let's check it out. Here's a quick clip of the game we have so far. You can see the type of levels that we're making, sort of a top-down action RPG, if you will. Also, we're still looking for a name for this game, and if you go down into the information section on this video, you'll see that there's a link to a place where you can vote on the names that we currently have. And if you could vote on one of those names, we'd really appreciate that. And also, if you have a better idea for a name, go ahead and list it in the comments. We'll certainly take a look at it. All right, well, with that out of the way, let's go ahead and jump into the computer. I already started building this level. I just started screen recording about, about a tenth of the way in. The first thing I did was lay out how I wanted the level to go, sort of like the maze of the level, if you will. And what I'm doing next here is I'm putting down walls to make it look like the level is actually coming up out of the ground. But the very first thing I like to do is I like to place floor tiles where I plan on running around in the shape of the maze. That way I can determine in advance where I want our character to go, where I want pickups to be. Sort of the style of play of the level is very similar to Diablo. It's sort of like a large maze where you can walk around, you can pick up loot of sorts, you fight a lot of enemies, you can actually go into dead ends and have to come back out the other side and backtrack and find your way to the end of the level. There's also a door you have to open. You have to find some key cards on the level, and those key cards open up the level so that you can pass through. So I've sped up this quite a bit because there's a lot to build on a level of this size. So I'm done now building out most of the flooring, and what you see me doing now is moving some of the enemies around. I'm sort of planning out in my head how I want these enemies to where I want them to be located, and now I'm putting my little loot boxes around the level, and I sort of know what loot's in them already. I can always check. There's either ammo, there's essence pickups, which is something that can increase your abilities. For the character, you can level up using essence, or there's also health pickups. Also, I'm adding like fire and things, lighting. The lighting isn't turned on yet. You'll see what it looks like when the lighting's turned on. I usually leave the lighting off while I'm sort of laying out the level. And now I'm placing things around with lights on them to sort of light the way through the level. Now, I like to kit bash a lot. So what I mean by kit bashing is I have a bunch of already made assets, either from the store, or I make them up myself. I download them from TurboSquid, or I build them. I like to build a lot of stuff, but sometimes building out an entire level like this requires that you do a little buying of assets in order to get it done. So here you see I'm starting to place things around the level that look cool. I'm scaling and snapping them in, building little areas of interest. So what I like to do a lot is I like to sort of do broad strokes where I don't just focus on one area too long. I kind of start to move around the level, and then as I'm starting to zero in a certain area, I'll kind of add certain things that sort of highlight that area. You can see I have lighting turned on now. I'm starting to work with the lighting. I'm starting to work with some effects. I'm starting to make things look pretty and interesting. So there's points of interest. So I remember working with some people from Disneyland some time ago, and apparently in Disneyland they have a saying called "Where's the weenie?" It's a weird saying, I know, but it's something Walt Disney actually invented. And what that meant was at any point that you're in Disneyland, you can see something that's cool, right? No matter where you are at Disneyland, you're going to either see the Matterhorn, or you're going to see the Disney Tower, right? The castle. So there always has to be something cool to look at. So whatever level, here's me testing the level, just playing through, making sure things feel right. So wherever you're at, there has to be something cool to look at. So when you're building a level of this size, you're figuring there's going to be maybe 4 or 5 points of interest, if you will, and there's also going to be a subtle change in the types of things that you put in the level so that you feel like you're going into a different area. So if say there's 5 different regions in your level, the first region is going to have a lot of a particular type of asset. And then as you move into another region, that particular type of asset you're going to use less of, but use more of a different asset. So you kind of feel like you're going from one place to another place. So it just doesn't start to feel too repetitive. Because one of the challenges of working with a kit is you have only so many assets, right? And you don't want to keep building more because sometimes it can take as long to build one asset as it does to build this level. This level is only taking me, I'm going to say total this level will have taken me about 12 hours to build. And that's about how long it takes to build a couple good loot boxes, you know? So I want to reuse the assets as much as possible. So here you see me getting creative, just looking for items I have in my, things I have in my paintbrush, if you will, just assets that I have in my library, things I've downloaded or built in the past, things that work with the project, that are optimized for the project, and I sort of put them all into a bucket, and then I start to pull them out when I build my levels. And sometimes I will get halfway through a level and decide, I do need more of a certain kind of asset, so I'll stop what I'm doing and I'll go build that asset and I bring it in. And then I start to use that asset as well. Or sometimes I'll use placeholder assets, knowing that I'm going to switch it out later. But I try not to do that because what that forces me to do is go back and revisit things, which is always an annoyance. Like right now, Steven, my partner on this game, and he's a good friend of mine as well, so it's been a pleasure working on this with him, was suggesting instead of slopes, we actually have stairs. Well, what that would require me to do is actually build some stairs. So each one of those little stair pieces I can swap out with each one of those slope pieces I can swap out with stairs. But after talking about it a little bit longer, maybe we figured, well, maybe we don't need to actually do that because it's a lot of work. So we're still feeling it out and seeing what the level actually feels like when we play. So something else that we wanted to do was have a lot of things that felt like vistas, like you're looking out over a mountaintop and you're seeing down into a valley. So right here what I'm building is one of the lowest parts of the level, and that is that red area down there. So this is like a deep cauldron, if you will, of the machine where there's like electricity and sort of like this red smoke, and that's like the lower levels, almost looks like lava. And so you're gonna be able to see that from your vantage point. So here's me running around. I just want to make sure I can be up high like on a mountaintop and see down there, and I was able to do that, so that feels about right. I get real creative with the assets that I have because I don't like to keep building more assets because it's very time intensive. And so a lot of times I'll turn things inside out, I'll turn them backwards, upside down, flip them around, combine them with the other assets. I'm always looking for unique ways of using what I already have. That way I'm not always building more assets and I'm actually building the level, because I want to get the level made and I want to get it done. And I also want to focus on gameplay too. So you can spend a lot of time just making stuff look pretty, but at the end the game needs to be fun. So as I'm building this, I'll stop and I'll play it, and I'll stop and I'll play it, and I'll make sure that the game is interesting. Well, if you made it this far, you must have liked what you saw. So feel free to give us a like and comment below maybe what you didn't like. Maybe you hated everything you saw or you were mad the whole time. I don't know. It's all good. Go ahead and respond in the comments. Catch you on the flip side.